And it isn't the songbirds, the songs that they sing. It isn't the music that makes you like spring. So what is this magic that makes love the thing? It's the girl, it's the girl.
The year was 1931. The song, It's the Girl, came from the talents of Dave Oppenheim and Abel Baer. The words and the music remind us of a time when Americans tuned in their radios to chase away those Depression blues. They heard those pioneering artists week after week, and in our current series, we're attempting to honor the women who came to the microphone from the stage, the silver screen, from vaudeville, and from the recording studio. During the 1930s, they reached fame and some fortune with their coast-to-coast broadcasts. For one woman, whom we honor among our first ladies of radio, her star not only brought personal fame to her, but to the network which carried her programs. The name, Kate Smith. The network, Columbia.
Each day is gray and dreary, but the night is bright and cheery. When the moon comes over the mountain, I'll be alone with my memories of you.
And what are those memories? At Camp Sunshine on Lake Placid, Kate Smith told us about those memories. She said, 50 years of a career are here. She was referring to memorabilia, awards, citations, recordings, photographs, each representing a highlight in a career which began in Washington, D.C. during World War I. Kate, who was born in Greenville, Virginia, and whose parents moved to Washington when she was young, sang for the servicemen when she was only 8. And although Irving Berlin had written God Bless America that year, 1917, Kate Smith was unaware of her fate with that song at that time. 21 years later, she would ask Irving Berlin to allow her to sing it on her popular radio programs. So successful was it that it nearly became our new national anthem. But we're getting ahead of ourselves.
It's a little white house with little green blinds at the end of a honeymoon lane.
This is a rare recording. It is the original Columbia phonograph record of one of the hit songs from Kate Smith's debut on Broadway, appearing as Tiny Little in Eddie Dowling's Honeymoon Lane. Kate had turned 17 in May. Honeymoon Lane opened on September 20th, 1926, at the Knickerbocker. Kate recalls those early years.
Well, now, I'll tell you, when I first started in show business, they didn't know what to call me. So Ted said, let's call her the Songbird of the South.
That's the question I wanted
And that's how that came about, the Songbird of the South. And every place I appeared, now this was not in radio or anything like that. This was in theaters. Nobody knew who I was. And I didn't care. I was just going along having fun. And so then finally Eddie Dowling saw me at the theaters. And he said, that girl ought to be in musical comedy. She shouldn't be in vaudeville and those picture houses. So he said, I'm going to put her in my show, Honeymoon Lane. And that's how I got in it. And that's what was the start of it all.
But it wasn't easy for Kate to enter show business. Although there was much music in the Smith family, Kate's parents urged her to study nursing. They felt that vaudeville demanded much too much of their daughter. At age 16, Kate acceded to the wishes of her father and studied nursing at George Washington Hospital. Then along came Honeymoon Lane.
Very dear miss you in the morning. When I think of the days that used to be.
Kate, I have
This
your
is
first
priceless.
one, Honeymoon Lane. I have
You
that.
have got Honeymoon
Do
Lane?
you have Honeymoon Lane?
Yes, I have.
On the other
Yes,
side.
Mary Dear's on one side and the
have it.
little white house is on the other. That's the first record I ever made, Sal.
don't-
That's right.
That's
That's in
Columbia
1927.
811D. That's the one that's
That
on
was
there.
it, Lou.
In the spring of 1928, Kate Smith goes on the road with the touring company of the Broadway hit Hit the Deck. In it, Kate plays the part of a singing black mammy.
And what did I do then? I'm trying to think.
Was it Hit the Deck? Did that come along in that
No,
sequence?
dear. That was a comedy thing. That wasn't even a show.
I know you did.
It was a
like that.
summer stock thing
Yeah.
that I went in with. They wanted me to get in, so I got in it just for something to do.
Oh, it's not fair, and you don't care for me, dearly. Just drop me a line if you just find yours sincerely. You know that I'm crying all the 9 days through. Just hoping I'll get one sweet letter from you.
In 1929, she makes a number of recordings for Velvet Tone and does some film work in those early Vitaphone talkies.
Love, your magic spell is everywhere. Love, I knew you well and found you fair. And you laughed at me, and I laughed at fate. Now I ask, is it too late?
On March 3rd, 1930, Kate Smith opens on Broadway with Bert Lahr in the musical Flying High. This will run through December of 1930. Much as she tries to become a singer, her destiny seems to call for her being a comedienne. The comics capitalize on her size.
And I went in Flying High for a year with Oscar Shore. Oscar Shore was the star. I went in there. And then when I came out of that, I went home and had my tonsils taken out. Then I came back again.
But in the audience of Flying High is Ted Collins, an executive with a recording company.
Ted saw me in a show. He said, that girl ought to be making phonograph records. She shouldn't be in a show. So he was then the manager of all recording for Columbia. So he put me in Columbia Records. And that's how I got started.
And that was your beginning with Ted?
Yes, sir. And that was the beginning with Ted. And Ted took some of my records up to Bill Paley and played them for him and told him, he said, look, anytime that girl wants to go on, I'll put her on, Paley said to Ted. So Ted said, well, I want her on right away. You know, one of those fast things. So he said, all right, you name the date and we'll put her on. So the date was May the 1st, 1931. And that's when I started. On my birthday,
I was
May
just
the
going to
1st.
ask you if that was your birthday.
Right. And 1931. And I have been going, thanks be to God, ever since then until this thing hit me last June.
However, Kate and Ted have no contract. They never will. He will manage her professional affairs until his death in 1964.
We're sharing every joy and sorrow, sharing them all with you. We'll go on sharing every new tomorrow. Those skies are gray or blue.
In May of 1931, the 1st of May to be exact, Kate Smith begins her broadcasting career with CBS. She is on the air 4 times a week, is sponsored by La Paulina Cigars, part of the William S. Paley family, and she earns $50 a week. She is placed opposite Amos and Andy on NBC.
We had such tremendous competition there with Amos and Andy that they didn't know quite, I don't think they knew quite what to do. So then Bill talked with Ted, and they worked this thing out. And Mr. Paley said, look, I'll put her up against anybody. And Ted was a little weary, a little leery, and he said, I don't know, they've been established there so long. He said, that doesn't mean a thing. If you bring in an artist that has it and can pull the audience to make them listen to him, you don't have to worry about anything. So I thought, well, all right, that's their problem, not mine, so we'll see what happens. So I went on, and the inevitable happened. I mean, we knocked Amos and Andy off at that time. And I loved them, of course. I thought they were terrific, just terrific. And then, of course, you know what followed after me came Crosby, and after Crosby came the Mills Brothers, then came the Boswell sisters, then came, oh goodness, I don't know, there was one.
That was quite a block, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was quite a block. They held that 7 o'clock spot for all the people they wanted to introduce. And it really became famous because so many people were introduced at that 7 o'clock spot, and every one of them that were introduced, the programs became tremendous hits, I'm happy to say.
Kate Smith begins to use When the Moon Comes Over the Mountain as her theme.
When the Moon Comes Over the Mountain, when we started in radio, we wanted to have something very simple. A melody very simple, a lyric very simple, so that the people could remember it. People don't realize it, but this is all important in regards to a song, making it a hit. Ted and I went Johnson, Howard Johnson, and we went to, who was his partner? Well, anyhow.
Woods?
Yeah, Woods. So we went to the two of them. We told them we had to have this type of song. We wanted it, and they had to write it for us. So Johnson said to me, well, do you have any little poem or anything you ever wrote? I said, yes, I do. I have a little poem about a moon coming over the mountain. He said, well, would you let me have it? I said, I'd be glad to let you have it. So he said, because I'm going to make that the lyric of your theme song. And he said, and then we'll go from there. So we left that in his hands, and he came around in a couple of days and had this lovely, sweet little melody of When the Moon Comes Over the Mountain. And I said, oh, it's so easy to sing, and that's the important thing. So we decided on the melody right there, and then we took my little poem, and I got that from down in Virginia where I was born. So he said, I'm going to take that, if it's all right with you, and use that as a lyric. I'll put it in there. So he did, and we came out with this lovely little When the Moon Comes Over the Mountain, every beam brings a dream dear of you. Once again, I can't even think of it. Once again, we something neath the mountain, through the rose-covered valley of blue. Each day is gray and dreary, but our nights are bright and cheery. When the moon comes over the mountain, every beam brings a dream dear of you. And that's how When the Moon Comes Over the Mountain was born.
When the moon comes over the mountain, every beam brings a dream dear of you. Once again we stroll neath the mountain, through the rose-covered valley we knew. Each day is gray and dreary, but the night is bright and cheery. When the moon comes over the mountain, I'm alone with my memories of you.
And that was it.
That's a beautiful.
That was it. It's easy. Everybody can sing it. And you know, it's cute because so many people get it mixed up with Carolina Moon, and They sing part of Carolina Moon along with When the Moon Comes Over the Mountain. It's really cute how they get it mixed up, but I love it. Carolina Moon came out with Morton, and there were a lot of moons in there in those days.
Kate Smith appears for some 3 months on stage at the Palace Theater in New York, doing 2 shows a day in addition to her broadcasts. And in July, along with the Boswell sisters, announcer Ted Husing, and composer George Gershwin, Kate Smith appears on the first CBS television service. The date, July 21st, 1931. The MC is Mayor Jimmy Walker of New York City. In 1932, Kate Smith and Ted Collins formed their corporation, K-Ted.
I never met any writers or songwriters or composers because that was Ted's job. Ted said, now listen, you're going to do the singing and you're going to have plenty to do. Now don't you question me about anything that I do or plan. I said, all right, Mr. Collins, okay. He met all of the songwriters, he met all of the composers, had them all in his office, discussed all the music, discussed all the songs. I never discussed a piece of music with anybody. He picked every song I ever sang on radio.
It's marvelous how he knew what you liked to. He knew.
Yep, oh, it was there. We never had a contract. This was definitely a meeting of the minds. Definitely. Never questioned him. And if he said for me so-and-so, I said, all right, do you really want me to do that? Yes, I do. And he had me running every place to do benefits. Benefits. That's how he really sold me in benefits. We would do 3 and 4 and 5 a night.
You had the stamina for it. It's terrific.
I did have it that time. I was a very young person.
By 1941, Kate Smith will have a staff of 55 people, including an orchestra of 28. Jack Miller becomes her orchestra leader, an association on radio and recordings which will continue through the 1940s. In November of that year, she entrains for Hollywood and the film The Big Broadcast of 1932.
20 million people are listening to my song, but I'm only singing for one. 20 million people will know that I belong to no one else under the sun. Every city street and country byway will hear my cheery hello, everybody, but they're not aware it's only my way of letting her know that I need her. So if 20 million people will pass the word along and ask her to please listen in, maybe she'll discover how lonely I've been. And even if she hasn't heard, maybe she will take the word of 20 million people who know I'm just singing for one.
She also makes her only full-length feature film entitled Hello, Everybody. She originates her commercial broadcasts from the Paramount lot in Hollywood. There, she also rents the home of Monty Blue and enjoys tennis in the adjoining courts.
It came from nowhere, the night that we met, was like a melodious sweet moon song that wasn't meant for me.
Moon Song was in the motion picture, wasn't it? Hello, Everybody. Yeah. It was a theme song of Hello, Everybody.
Did you like it?
I thought it was a beautiful song. Beautiful song. I'm like you. I thought it was a very beautiful melody. I thought it was a beautiful lyric because it fit into the picture and the story. But there have been songs I haven't liked, but there's been more that I have liked.
Early in 1933, Kate Smith drops her Monday night broadcasts and adds Thursdays. Back home, she appears on stage at the Paramount Theater, then a trip to Richmond, Virginia, with her stage review.
As sweet as you are, don't let a thing ever change you. As sweet as you are, don't let a soul rearrange you. Don't ever lose all the charm you possess. Your loveliness, darling, the way you say yes.
In October of 1933, Kate Smith goes off the air and goes on the road with her Swanee Music Review. She travels the major cities for 8 months. Kate realizes her career is in broadcasting. Her radio fan clubs number 385 and count 24,165 members. She returns to the air in 1934 in the fall, and Columbia places Kate Smith opposite Rudy Valley on NBC. In addition, she is on the air Wednesday afternoons for a full hour in a broadcast designed for the woman listener. No music. Her evening program features songs.
Good evening, everyone. Once again, we bring you another program of songs by radio's most beloved personality, the one and only Songbird of the South. Here she is.
Hello, folks. This is Kate Smith. At present, there are lots of nice waltz tunes, but we've picked a brand new one to introduce tonight that we think is the prettiest of them all. See what you think about it. It has the pleasing title of There's Nothing Like an Old-Fashioned Waltz. There's nothing like an old-fashioned waltz with an old-fashioned girl in your arms.
Then Kate Smith begins a new nighttime series entitled The Kate Smith New Star Review. Her sponsor is Hudson Motor Car Company, featuring the 1934 Hudson Terraplane. A talent search gets underway in various cities for the New Star Review. Ted Collins is MC, Jack Miller conducts the orchestra, and besides the new talent, the regulars include the Ambassadors Trio and announcer Bill Adams from radio's March of Time series. Highlight of the broadcast is Kate's Song Souvenir. It is then that Kate Smith begins the practice of including the old songs.
How do I know it's real? There's something within me feels it. The beat of my heart reveals it, and that's how I know. How do I know it's real? The way that your eyes possess me, the way that your arms caress me, and that's how I know.
As Sal says, if it's a beautiful love song, I throw my whole heart into it as if it was just written for me and my love. And that's the way I record. I feel every word. I feel this is my song and just for the one I love. It's got to be in you. Lou, it's got to be in you. Because that's the way I feel about them, Lou.
In 1935, Kate observes her 26th birthday and 4th anniversary on CBS. Her income has built to $1 million. A single broadcast brings as many as 1,600 letters a day. In May, Robert Trout, distinguished CBS newsman in later years, becomes announcer for the Kate Smith Review. And in June 1935, Kate begins a new series entitled Kate Smith and Her Swanee Music. It is an evening broadcast on the Columbia Network. Her associate, Sal Gelosi, speaks of her schedule in those years.
There was a daily show, the noon show every day. There was a night show every night, and twice
And
a
a
week
radio
there was a
show.
variety show. And that show had to be broadcast twice
For the West.
Coast. And all of it was live. There's nobody in the world that's ever worked that hard.
No. I did everything. I never taped anything. We didn't know what a tape was back then.
Kate, were you a
In nin-
workaholic?
No, I wasn't. I was a cakeaholic. You know what a cakeaholic is?
Kate,
Same thing as alcohol, only you eat all the cakes that you see in front of you, get a hold of. Oh, and I got a cook now that's even worse than me. She cooks up a storm, and we have a ball out there in that kitchen. I got a nice big General Electric kitchen, and we just go to town. If she's not baking cakes for the churches, I'm baking cakes for the...
1935, in October, Kate Smith begins a new series. It is entitled Coffee Time with Kate Smith. Her sponsor is the A&P Tea Company. Her broadcasts are at 7:30 Eastern Time. It is her comeback to the airwaves 3 times a week. She is responsible for increasing sales of A&P coffee by 25%, and sales soar to 4 million pounds in 1 week. At first, Kate Smith does her broadcasts in a small studio without an audience at CBS 485 Madison Avenue, New York. Within months, the program moves to the CBS Radio Theater at 45th Street, just off Broadway. She buys a home for her grandparents in Virginia, and she spends her summers at Camp Sunshine at Lake Placid.
But we do have fun here. We have fun, Phyllis. We come here with that in mind, not to work, not to...
Just to do whatever.
just to have a good time and do what we want to do.
Are there other things that you've been interested in?
I love to
during
cook.
your-
I love flowers.
I know you have some beautiful.
Yes,
flowers
you.
here
If you just
in
look
the
around,
garden.
put your wife's coat on her and take her out in the snow, and brush some of the snow away, and then she can look around and see all the gorgeous flowers that are here. What I have been doing lately, I'll tell you a little thing I've done lately that I haven't done in 50 years. Take a vacation. I've never taken a vacation in 50 years. And I said last year, I'm going to take a vacation. So off we went to Palm Beach.
And you didn't get that vacation.
Sal and his wife and myself. So off we went to Palm Beach, and we were going to stay for a couple of weeks. Needless to say, we stayed 8 weeks. Then we came back to New York, and we're happy again. But we had our vacation. And then after my vacation is when I first got hit with this thing.
That's what
whatever
you
it
get for
was.
resting.
That's what I get for resting and not working. You said it, Lou.
In 1936, the Kate Smith Variety Hour, known as the A&P Bandwagon, begins on Thursday nights for 1 hour. Kate Smith is honored by Radio Guide magazine in 1936 as favorite woman singer of popular songs. The New York World Telegram polls 239 radio editors, and Kate Smith is named popular songstress. In April of 1938, Ted Collins signs Kate Smith for a noontime talk program. Kate Smith Speaks, it is called, and is on CBS 3 times a week. She does her broadcast from her Park Avenue apartment. Ted Collins reads United Press news dispatches. It becomes a top-ranking daytime program. Kate speaks to 10 million listeners a day. She will do this series on CBS for 9 years. It will switch to Mutual in 1947 when Kate and CBS disagree over censorship.
You see, we had our evening program, which, as you say, was singing. The main forte was singing. And I have to admit that I loved the Daytime Speaks show.
I love it.
Because this gave me an opportunity to get in with people, get in close to the people. You can talk about people, you can talk about different things, but it's when you get in close and talk to them, and you know that you're talking to them because they're responding to it. That's the kind of a program I like. I love a speak program where you can get with the people and to them.
And that's what radio did, too. It was so intimate.
Yes, yes, very, very. I just loved that daytime program. And it gave us such a great scope, Phyllis, to go everywhere and get everything and bring it to them. And this is what I loved about it. I really loved it.
It's high noon in New York and time for Kate Smith. Here she is.
Hello, everybody. Well, I certainly hope that you had a very nice weekend. I hope you had a good rest and the chance that the weekend always brings to store up a little extra energy, find a little extra pleasure, and follow your own special inclination of reading or getting out into the country or spending a few hours at your favorite hobby, whatever it happens to be. My favorite summer hobby is gardening. I find that gardening accomplishes so many things. It gives you a chance to get out into the sun and fresh air, exercises those back and shoulder muscles, and if you have that green thumb that most gardeners insist they have or possess, it makes the flowers and the vegetables grow and flourish.
And I loved doing it, and I'd love to do it again, but I cannot bring myself around to doing it again because of the fact that it did tie me up so much. But it's a great outlet for a person who is starting, I'll tell you that. Anyone starting should try to get into a speak show or a Mike Douglas or who's the fellow that's on every night?
Griffin or
Griffin,
Johnny
Carson, all the different ones. They've all become famous by being on every night at that time. And that's the same thing we went through years ago.
1938 is also the year Kate Smith discovers Irving Berlin's World War I song, God Bless America. She sings it for the first time at the close of her Armistice Day broadcast, November 11th, and it becomes a standard closing song for her.
From the mountains to the prairies, to the ocean, white with gold. God bless America, my home, sweet home. From the mountains to the prairies, to the ocean, white with gold. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet
Kate Smith appears on the Jack Benny program in 1938.
Why, Kate Smith, you little lifesaver. Well, Kate, you couldn't have walked in at a more opportune time. Am I glad to see you?
I'm glad to see you, too, Jack. Are you having a good time in New York?
Oh, wonderful. Kate, you know Harry Von Zell.
Oh, sure. Hello, Harry.
Glad to see you, Kate.
Say, I meant to tell you, Jack. Mary sent me a letter yesterday, and it's all about you. Do you want to hear it?
Oh, no, don't bother.
Yeah, let's hear it, Kate. Come on.
Oh, it's probably nothing.
Well, here it is anyhow.
Oh, okay.
Dear Kate, glad to hear that you're taking my place. But as this is the first time you've ever worked with Jack, there are some things that every girl should know.
It starts out bad there.
If Jack asks you out to dinner and tells you there's a marvelous floor show at the Automat, don't fall for it.
Isn't that awful?
Kate and Jack have the only non-cancelable contracts in radio. Ted Collins signs comics Abbott and Costello after seeing them at Lowe's Theater in New York. They appear several weeks on the Kate Smith Evening Hour with announcer Andre Baruch.
Andre Baruch and I met for the first time in about, I guess I'd say, 30 years, Sal. last winter down in Palm Beach. He's down there on a disc jockey show, he and his wife, B. Wayne.
Yes, I heard that.
Yeah, and those two kids met on my radio show in the 30s, and they were married on my show. And the people that were on that show, you just wouldn't believe. You remember Ted Strader?
Yes, I do.
Well, Ted was with them when they got married on the show. Of course, he's gone now, much to our sorrow. But I was going to go on for about 5 minutes with Andre and Bea down there in Palm Beach last year, and it wound up being 2.5 hours that I was on with them on this disc jockey show.
Lucky they were.
Yeah. And you know, Lou, the whole thing was live.
Yes.
Everybody called in on the telephone asking questions, and it made it so wonderful to talk to all those people. And I have no idea how many I talked to, but it was a tremendous amount of 2.5 hours we filled, and they didn't want me to go. And then the next day, of course, they had all the phone calls that come in and all the reports that they had. Then they want me to come right back again, but I couldn't. Not at that time. I had to leave to go back to New York. So anyhow, I promised them that when I come down again, I'll go on with them. They're lovely people, Bea and Andre.
Really, I'd rather show you than to tell you about it. I brought over a few of the boys from my band. The personnel reads guitar, bass, piano, and Smith. We've got a little something worked out here on small fry, and I just want to say it's not a killadilla, but, well, it goes like this. Oh, small fry, strutting by the pool room. Small fry, you should be in the schoolroom. My, put down that cigarette. You ain't no grown-up high and mighty yet.
1938, and Ted Collins signs Clifford Goldsmith, creator of the Aldrich family, for a 40-week guest appearance. 1939, Time magazine, in its May 15th issue, calls Kate Smith the First Lady of Radio. She appears at the World's Fair, is told she has a listening audience of some 35 million, and journeys to the White House in Washington, where President Franklin Roosevelt introduces her to King George and Queen Elizabeth. The President says, "Your Majesties, this is Kate Smith. This is America."
Kate Smith presents a new song that is destined to go to the top of your list of favorites. Little Skipper.
Ship ahoy, my little skipper. It's time to sail to Blanket Bay. Climb aboard your baby clipper, but don't you drift too far away.
1940, the Kate Smith Friday evening broadcasts are sponsored by Grape Nuts. The network is still Columbia.
This is Ted Collins saying goodnight. Be sure to make a note to be with us next Friday night at Kate Smith time when Hollywood comes to Broadway. Darrell F. Zanuck has produced a truly great motion picture based on the colorful and dramatic career of the most glamorous actress the stage has ever known, Lillian Russell. And so a week from tonight, we're bringing you the air premiere of Lillian Russell, and in it we'll have those two outstanding Hollywood stars, Miss Alice Faye and Mr. Edward Arnold. Also, Kate will introduce for the first time the new song hit Gill tune, I Can't Get Indiana Off My Mind, written by Hoagie Carmichael and Robert DeLeon. It's going to be a thrilling radio show, so be sure to be with us next Friday night. Until then, good night.
And for a good morning, eat Grape Nuts Flakes. Thanks for listening, and good night, folks.
1941, Kate Smith is on the air at noon 5 times a week. She does her Friday evening variety hour, an all-day affair with rehearsals at the Columbia Studios. In May 1941, Kate Smith marks her 10th anniversary on CBS. President William Paley and General Foods President Clarence Francis bring her congratulations. In return, she does Johnny Appleseed, an epic drama of American life at the CBS 45th Street Theater. After the presentation, there is a reception at the Hotel Astor.
We're going to present again the epic that's as American as Kate Smith herself. Kate Smith in Little Johnny Appleseed.
Once upon a time in America, there was a lumberjack who was a giant, Paul Bunyan. Once upon a time in America, there was another giant, John Henry. He worked on the railroads down in the South. And when he walked with his head above the locomotives in Alabama, in Georgia, in the Carolinas, his arms would swing and his arms would sound like this.
Reader's Digest, in its January 1942 issue, does a story on Kate Smith based upon the December 3rd and 10th issues of Radio Guide. As Americans become more involved in World War II, Kate Smith becomes more involved in recording patriotic songs.
Mail call from the United States of America. Stand by, Americans. Here's Mail Call, one big package of words and music and laughter delivered to you by the stars from whom you want to hear in answer to the request you send to Armed Forces Radio, Los Angeles, USA. Tonight's Mail Call is sent you from New York City, and it's speeded on its way by your First Lady of Radio, the songbird of the South, Kate Smith.
Thank you, Milton Cross. It's a wonderful feeling to be sending this mail call letter to all you fellas and girls overseas. Here's a question that must have occurred to a lot of you GIs, and finally Irving Berlin put it to music. So with the help of 4 chicks and chucks, let's start the quiz right now. The men who fight the war until it's won are making plans for when the day is done. They all agree that it will be a task, but here are several questions that they ask. What are we gonna do with all the jeeps? Thinking about the jeeps gives us the creeps. What'll the Army do with our old mess kit? How will you put your foot into a shoe that fits? Where will we put the Army blankets when fellas begin to sleep in sheets again? How will we use the flannels that we got through Army channels when the boys come home? When the boys come home.
In 1943, Kate Smith appears in the wartime musical film This Is the Army. It is produced by Warner Brothers, and Kate sings God Bless America. Kate Smith Day on CBS finds Kate in 57 appeals for war bonds. The appeals are carried by 134 CBS affiliates. In 18 hours, she sells $108 million worth of bonds.
Betty Winkler stars in the role of Eden Channing. Tony Marvin speaking. This Life Is Mine is directed by Richard Sandville. And now, CBS presents Kate Smith.
Hello, everybody. This is Kate Smith again. There's just one story I'd like to tell you now, although I'll have many more to tell you before the day is over. But right now, I'd like to tell you what a man said at a war bond rally up in Utica, New York. You know, friends, when we buy war bonds, we're not buying tanks and guns and planes. What we're really doing is buying our boys back, bringing them home to us, safe and sound again. You see, I just received a telegram from Washington this morning. My boy isn't coming back. You know, I think that's one of the most tragic and yet inspiring stories I've ever heard. Because that's what war bonds are to every one of us, a chance to buy our boys back. I'm sure that everyone within sound of my voice wants his boy back home. So why don't you just pick up your telephone and call the war bond number you'll hear over this station and buy a war bond. I'll be on the air as long as my voice holds out with many more stories. But for now, won't you buy a bond?
This is the Columbia Broadcasting System.
In 1945, Kate Smith's evening program is cut to a half hour. She moves from Fridays to Sundays and is placed opposite Jack Benny, who has moved to NBC. She is named among radio's outstanding women.
Thank you, Glenn Riggs, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. In all of radio's bright history, no name shines with greater luster than that of our star today. As commentator, singer, forceful personality, and discoverer of stars, she has no equal on the air. And because of these great achievements, the Radio Hall of Fame is deeply honored to present the First Lady of Radio, Kate Smith.
Paul, it isn't every day we have Kate Smith on the show. And when she's here, all I want to do is listen.
Well, that's mighty sweet of you to say that, Martha.
Kate, you heard what Martha said, and there's a tune coming up.
Well, that has a faint odor of conspiracy, but it's 2 against 1, so, Mr. Whiteman, if you will, give the boys a downbeat, please.
1946. Kate Smith's evening broadcast is back on Fridays at 8:30, and she continues her noontime broadcasts. In 1947, the noontime Kate Smith Speaks broadcast moves to the Mutual Network, where it will remain for the next 4 years. 1951, that noontime series ends, and she begins a TV daytime series on NBC television. Kate Smith continues her TV series in the 1950s and does occasional radio programs. The 1960s are busy with concerts and recording sessions. She produces some 20 albums for RCA in the 1960s.
I think, frankly, that my albums for RCA Victor were the greatest of my career. I feel that way myself. Well, now let me tell you something, Lou. I'm not saying this boastfully, believe me. I'm saying this because we didn't do any retakes or anything on mine. I had Andy Wiswell. Now, Andy Wiswell was a big man at RCA Victor, and he was in charge of all the recording sessions. And Andy was my man. I had him for all of my recordings. And he and I just seemed to hit it off right. He knew what he wanted, and I knew what he wanted. And this made it the perfect combo. When we would start, in other words, I don't know how many sessions they had with other artists, but I know that with me, they used to set up 3 nights a week. We'd go in the studio to do these recordings. And I heard...
Excuse me, her voice is at its best at that time of the night.
Oh, yes. And I knew all of my musicians perfectly, every one of them. And they knew me because they had made all the records with me over the years. But I would go into the studio about 9 o'clock at night, and they'd be ready for me the minute I got there. They had rehearsed their numbers and everything so that there wasn't a lot of foolishness going on to run through them. So then we would get right at them immediately. The minute I came in, I'd say, "All right, Andy, let's go." He would be in the control room, Wiswell, and we'd start right in. And I used to say to Andy, "Andy, you've been through this, haven't you? You've run through this number." "Yes, I have, Catherine." "All right, I know the number, so let's try to get one now." Then he'd set everybody up, and he'd say, "All right, now, the piano," every microphone was right, and he'd say, "All right, now, boys, let's get this time. Don't let's have to run over it 3 or 4 times." There aren't many artists, they've told me they do not have many artists who can do that. But we would go right through it from the beginning to the end. The only thing I ran over with them was the introduction and my start, and at the end, the finish.
Kate Smith appears at Carnegie Hall, New York, on October 9th, 1963, in a one-woman show. In 1964, she records The Sweetest Sounds, a collection of favorites for RCA. Her longtime friend and manager, Ted Collins, dies. She continues her recording contracts, and in time, Sal Gelosi becomes associated with her. Kate records 4 albums for Victor in 1967. In 1968, she and Arthur Fiedler with the Boston Pops Orchestra record an album of America's favorites. There are more albums in 1969 and 1970. And in 1974, Kate Smith appears on the American Guild of Variety Artists TV special as the Entertainer of the Year. She is introduced by Ed Sullivan.
In years of tremendous popularity to qualify for the annual AGVA Golden Award. Past winners of this honorary accolade have been Jimmy Durante, Jack Benny, and Duke Ellington. And tonight we add another to this list of illustrious superstars, a great singing lady who has been entertaining America for nearly half a century. You know, it actually would take an hour to list all of the show business records this great performer set. She is one of the top-selling recording artists of all time. In 1932, she played 18 consecutive weeks at the Palace, New York's Broadway. She was one of radio's first major stars. She introduced the daytime talk show to television. Her big-time variety shows set new trends in both radio and in TV. Ladies and gentlemen, the songbird of the South, Miss Kate Smith. I have something here for you. The American Guild of Variety Artists 4th Annual Entertainer of the Year Award, Kate Smith, the Golden Award for 1973. Let's hear it.
Thank you very, very much. You know, folks, you who are watching our show this evening, we've had quite a bit of snow out here in Las Vegas, and with it, I lost my voice. But we did the best we could tonight under the conditions. And I want to say, in the few days that I've been here, this is the first time that I have ever been in Las Vegas, and I have been received so beautifully by all the wonderful people here that I'm going to be looking forward to coming back again very soon. Thank you, and God bless you all. Thank you so much.
In January of 1976, Kate Smith is in Pasadena for the annual Tournament of Roses on New Year's Day. In March, her photograph appears in the nation's papers with a statement that she has never accepted royalty payments for her recordings of God Bless America. The money is given to the Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts of America. Kate Smith is listed among the top 15 most admired women in a Gallup poll.
I think everybody knows when I started. And that was in May of 1931. That's when I started in radio. And I've been going steadily, thank God, ever since. And of course, I started in TV in well, that's 25 years I've been in TV, so that'd be about 1951, something like that. And of course, Lou, I love my work, I always have, and I think to be successful, anyone to be successful in their work has got to like it. You must like it, because if you don't, you fail, you fall down, and the people listening realize this, so they just kind of drop you. And this is something I never wanted to happen because I love people and I want people to love me.
Kate Smith, who raised millions of dollars for orphanages, sold millions of dollars worth of war bonds, raised $4 million for the American Red Cross, $500,000 for the American Legion, and in one appeal for dolls for the needy, received 20,000 dolls in 3 days. She once told an interviewer, "I don't care much for society clubs or nightclubs, nor do I go often to parties." Kate Smith lives with her memories.
So we have had a wonderful forte, the public and myself, for all these wonderful, wonderful years. You've got to be honest with them. You can't lie. You can't. Now, of course, an awful lot of them right now are terribly upset because I've been ill. And it is perfectly normal for a person to become ill, no matter who they are or what they do. You have a time in your life when you just can't do what you want to do. And so I have had this illness now. And the illness, by the way, is laryngitis, first of all, which is a terrible boogaboo to any singer, as you know. And so I've had laryngitis. I fell down in the bathtub and hurt my spine very badly. So I've been going around here limping, and so consequently I have been in straps. I have been in all kinds of treatments. And the doctors, I have had 4 doctors, very fine doctors, who have been watching over me. And I have persevered with God's help, which is the main thing, on getting my walking back. I haven't been able to walk right. And this is important in our business. We have to be able to walk. We have to be able to sing. And these are the things that were affected mainly in me. So I don't have any losing battle. I'm fighting like crazy with God's help. And I think that eventually I'll come out of it all right. I just feel that way, that I'm going to come out of it all right. But it is going to take time.
Our tribute to Kate Smith, the songbird of the South, is the product of 1 full year of research, as we studied in Washington at the Broadcast Pioneers Library and in New York City at the Lincoln Center Library for the Performing Arts. Our thanks go to several collectors, chief among them Richard Hayes of Cranston, Rhode Island, and to Sal Gelosi for arranging our interview in 1977 with Kate Smith at Lake Placid. Our thanks, too, to Phyllis Dumont for special assistance in our interviews, and to the National Endowment for the Arts for supporting Keene, New Hampshire State College with matching funds to pursue our studies. On behalf of all who helped us, and our technician, Leonard Goodnow, this is Lou Dumont.
It isn't the paddle, it's not the canoe, it isn't the river or skies that are blue, it isn't the love dreams that bring joy to you, it's the girl, and it isn't the brooklet that you wander to, it isn't the mountains, the flowers or dew, it isn't the love nest that brings love to you, it's the girl, it's the girl.